Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you are having a great day as we get things started off here at the show with, we had a bit of a thing happen behind the scenes here, but suffice to say that today we are doing a full hour of computer and technology news, which is, kind of okay because obviously we had a short week last week and a lot of stuff has been happening. So it's great that we get a whole show here dedicated to catching up on the news and making sure that, ourselves and our audience stays up to date with the latest and greatest tech news that we can find. So with that being said, a few things to mention before we get started here with computer and technology news, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So if you want links to any articles that we do today, if you want to, check it out for yourself, check out any videos that we may mention, all that will be included in the show notes. You can find that very conveniently. And hey, while you're at the website, also be sure to check out the social media contest, which is sponsored by Logitech, of course. Every single Friday, we give away a prize. And let's see. And then the last thing is, of course, the live video stream where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Always a fun way to check out the show. But of course, we try to make everything as audio friendly as possible. So with that being said, why don't we just kind of jump into this with computer and technology news? And that is sponsored by Firejack Security. Here we go. All right, so for today's first story, I think we're going to go ahead and tackle this one head on. And here we go. It's right here. So, yep. And this is about YouTube. So a couple of things to mention here where, some things have been happening over the past couple days, and it has to do with what got Google and YouTube and by extension Google, it's what got them in trouble earlier this year. And it's the fact that they are so hands-off of their service, and really that isn't really showing signs of stopping, but they're so hands-off their service that sometimes the intersection between content and advertisers butts heads, and advertisers are unfortunately linked to content that I think most people would find, I think hopefully everyone would find objectionable. And it's up to YouTube to of course, curate and watch these kinds of things, but things do slip through the cracks. And YouTube is taking a very harsh response to this, but let's get into the article. And this one coming to us from Vice, right publication. And yeah, they're talking about YouTube kills ads. And by kills ads, they mean pause. Or, they demonetize a number of videos. Well, they demonetized about 50,000 channels as advertisers flee over disturbing child content. And so you can already tell this is not going to be a good thing for anyone related, but saying that for the second time in less than a year, major advertisers are fleeing YouTube after finding their ads were paired with offensive content, and this time directed at children. So, and, the first time that they're mentioning, of course, was when they were pairing essentially advertisers with white supremacist videos, or, videos that were spouting a certain ideology, hate speech, what have you, and advertisers were, of course, then paying money for people who watch that. And Google and YouTube got into a lot of trouble. They pulled it, demonetized it, but it did show a flaw in the system that by being so automated, you really don't have any kind of oversight. And in a lot of cases, you know, we're seeing this in other stories. We're not going to get into it here, but with other stories, the oversight is too far reaching. And then in this situation, you have advertisers that have no idea that, hey, you know, content like this even exists on the platform. So they said that the number of disturbing videos targeted at child audiences is much larger than previously known. Saying that over the past week, YouTube says it has terminated more than 270 accounts and removed over 150,000 videos from the platform. So in 1 week, 270 accounts, which seems a little low because, hey, let's face it, YouTube has like 1 billion users. But 150,000 videos, that's not a small number. And they said that the company has also turned off comments on over 625,000 videos targeted by child predators. Saying that, and again, another quote, finally, over the past week, we removed ads from nearly 2 million videos and over 50,000 channels masquerading as family-friendly content. And they said that content that endangers children is abhorrent and unacceptable to us. Yeah, here was part of the problem. You get a certain level of monetization if you can target a wider audience. And the widest audience, by far, is child-friendly content because you get more advertisers who are willing to pay money to put their products in front of popular videos. And, you know, if you get something flagged as, I don't know, mature, you know, over 17 on YouTube, things like that, or, you know, there's some kind of violence or anything explicit within the video, then less advertisers, or you have, you know, less advertisers buying for that same video ad space. So you get paid less, blah, blah, blah. So they're trying to make more money, but at the same time, they're also just kind of being gross about it. So they said a number of big brands, including Adidas, Mars, Hewlett-Packard, have all paused advertising on YouTube in the wake of reports revealing their ads were showing up alongside explicit comments under videos of children, and that the tools used to screen such comments, volunteer moderators told the BBC that they haven't been working properly for over a year, allowing between 50,000 and 100,000 predatory accounts to remain on YouTube. So there are moderation tools, but, well, moderating has to be done either by the owner or by someone that the owner dictates, say that this person can moderate my channel. And I guess they're saying that the tools to moderate are unfortunately not working. So they said that, and not to get too graphic with this, but they said that the reports on the explicit comments come amid a slew of related stories concerning kids and offensive YouTube content, where those revelations include how highly trafficked YouTube channels have been tricking kids into watching disturbing videos. And yeah, so they said that if this all sounds familiar, of course, we mentioned earlier this year, there was the white supremacist, you know, advertising thing. So they said that the reason that so much of this content gets through YouTube's filters in the first place is because of a problem that extends beyond just YouTube and affects other major digital platforms like Amazon and Facebook. And, you know, in the article, they give a couple of examples of what they're talking about, but, you know, I don't think they're too family friendly. But obviously, we have instances of Facebook and Facebook Live, which is the live streaming feature for Facebook. And, you know, certain activities have been filmed using Facebook Live that are just plain abhorrent. And then you have situations where Amazon, you know, you sign up, you make an account, and you can put on essentially anything that your heart desires. And until enough people notice, until enough people say, hey, this is offensive, any number of products can exist on Amazon, but they hide in the numbers. They hide in the fact that there are millions upon millions of products, and the bottom of the barrel, the absolutely worst of these products, yeah, they're going to be hard to find because, hey, they're just not popular and they are offensive. So, hey, they shouldn't be popular. So, in the case of YouTube, though, one problem appears to be that digital video networks has so many kids watching, where they say that for many parents, YouTube serves as a de facto babysitter and portable TV set, which I have seen firsthand. A lot of kids out there, they get themselves a tablet or they take their parents' smartphone, and back in my day, it was a Game Boy, but nowadays it's a smartphone with a YouTube app on it. It's just that simple. So they said that and some of the most popular stuff on YouTube is part of the broader trend that's taken flight on the platform in the last year as more users use the algorithm to generate videos to attract clicks and ad dollars, often plugging in keywords like Elsa, obviously Frozen, and or Spider-Man, despite their decidedly child-unfriendly content. So essentially, they're trying to get as many eyeballs, even if the content isn't related, even if it's offensive, even if it isn't for the right audience. They're trying to get any number of clicks. And that's a problem. Is that mislabeling these, a parent or anyone could be fooled, or even, hey, even your kid could be fooled into thinking that, hey, there's a thumbnail of Spider-Man, there is Spider-Man in the title, and hey, this is going to be about Spider-Man. Turns out it's some weirdo's weird video, and it has nothing to do with the content that they wanted, and in fact is wholly inappropriate for, hey, the audience that would be interested in Spider-Man. So they said that Toy Freaks, for example, was until this month one of the 100 most viewed YouTube channels, with more than 8.5 million subscribers to its videos, some of which featured strange content that included children in pain and those who were ill. And YouTube terminated the Toy Freaks channel in mid-November after an essay highlighted the viral content. But again, it shows that even a channel that was in the top 100, like this isn't even like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, this was the top 100, even they had videos that were decidedly not family friendly, but they still got away with it. They still got away with it until someone made a big enough fuss. And that's a problem that Facebook is facing, where Facebook is doing it with fake news. I'm sure, you've heard the phrase before, probably sick of it by now, but it's a real thing. Fake news and the idea that this content is trying to drive clicks and eyeballs and ad revenue over any kind of legitimate content or facts that it should be portraying. It's just clickbait. And in a lot of cases, it's clickbait to fake stuff or to, in this case, YouTube really taking a look at what could be considered offensive for family-friendly content. All right. So with let's see. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and go on to our next story? So YouTube, they're working on this, and some of the articles that we didn't get to over the past week that have been happening is that more and more YouTube videos and content, and this is just an aside, we don't have an article for this, but more and more YouTube content. I mean, even our own here at Computer America. If there's certain imagery, if there's certain words in the title, if they detect, I don't know how YouTube exactly detects what you're talking about, but if they feel there's something that they find unacceptable to talk about, then they demonetize the video. And this, for Computer America, that's not really a problem, but for everyone else, for videos that have millions of views, and hey, this is people's livelihood, well, it becomes a problem when you start to demonetize that much advertising revenue for what is essentially automated. Someone flags it, someone reports it, they err on the side of safety, and they demonetize something, essentially robbing that person of, hey, their dues or their salary. It's YouTube needs to really focus on what made YouTube good. And that was the fact that they were an open platform, but they're so large now, and they are, almost a standard at this point for, online video, that they need to let people, of course, have their way. But at the same time, they're so large, they can't be completely hands off, because we saw what happened with YouTube. We saw what happened with Facebook and Amazon. People take advantage of the system. So there has to be that balance that Facebook is trying to find, that Amazon is trying to find, that no one really has a silver bullet for. And that's, how do you let people have the freedom to produce the content that they want? But at the same time, how do you keep really offensive things that could get you as a company in trouble and harm your brand and your audience? It's what they're struggling with. And if you figure out a way to do it, you will be a very, very rich person. So, all right. That one aside, why don't we go ahead and, all right, I'll put this one. Let's talk about, let's do two silly stories. And by silly, I mean, well, one's a little, if you're a security-minded individual, if you consider yourself, hey, you're pretty good about setting passwords and making sure everything is on the up and up, well, hey, this one you may find a little funny. Where a researcher, and remember, this is not the first time this has happened, like this week, let alone this month, but Amazon Web Services, a researcher discovered a classified Army intel app and data on an open public Amazon Web Services bucket. Yeah. Where a failed intelligence system with data labeled quote unquote top secret left open by a contractor. Folks, if you are dealing with top secret information, make sure it's not available to the public. That would be very good to know. So, after uncovering a massive trove of social media-based intelligence left on multiple Amazon Web Service S3 storage buckets by a Defense Department contractor, the cloud security firm UpGuard has disclosed yet another major cloud storage breach of sensitive intelligence information. Although, they worded it in such a way, major cloud storage breach. It wasn't really much of a breach. Like, can you say someone breached your home if you took the fronts of your house off and let everyone see inside of it? You know what I mean? Like, can you say that they breached your home to sit on your sofa if you put your sofa out on the front lawn and anyone could come and sit on it? But I digress. They said that this time, though, the data exposed include highly classified data and software associated with the Distributed Common Ground System and Army, an intelligence distribution platform that the Department of Defense has spent billions to develop. And specifically, the breach involves software for a cloud-based component of, the system we just talked about called Red Disk. And yeah, they said that the Red Disk system was developed under an urgent operational need program aimed at delivering intelligence to troops with tablets and laptop computers on the ground in Afghanistan via a cloud computing architecture. So the initiative was never fully deployed, which, when you hear the U.S. Army spend billions of dollars and then you hear it was never fully deployed. Regardless, they said, and it slowly became a symbol of how defense contractors were mining emergency war funds from the military. Kind of makes sense. It continues to be expanded and deployed by the Army after more than a decade of continuous development. Man, under time and under budget. That is not something that defense contractors are good at. But they said that UpGuard's director of cybersecurity risk Chris Vickery discovered the publicly accessible S3 storage bucket on September 27th in the Amazon Web Service domain INSCOM. And they said that the Army's internal Operation Intelligence Branch, blah, 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 essentially it was under the accounts for the U.S. military has for Amazon Web Services. Couldn't be more clear that it was from the actual military. So they said that it contained 47 viewable files and folders in the main repository, 3 of which were also downloadable. And they said that the largest downloadable file was Open Virtual Appliance file. And they said that contained a virtual hard drive and configuration data for a Red Hat Linux-based virtual machine. Hey, check it out. Linux, making a comeback. And while the virtual OS and hard drive can be browsed in their functional states, most of the data cannot be accessed without connecting to Pentagon systems, an intrusion that malicious actors could have attempted had they found this bucket. So luckily, this was found by a cybersecurity professional, and I'm sure that they let the Army know what was happening, and obviously they fixed it before they ever announced it. So even though we're talking about it now, it's probably been about 2 or 3 months since it was actually an issue. But it was an issue at one point. So they said that the mishandling of sensitive information in the cloud by military contractors has been an ever-expanding problem for the Department of Defense and the NSA. And in September, UpGuard alerted Department of Defense contractor that a former recruiting vendor had left the resume of job applicants, including their security clearance data. And in it, which was in a misconfigured S3 storage bucket. And earlier this month, they also revealed that another contractor had also left social media clippings publicly accessible from the Department of Defense. They just don't seem to be taking this very seriously. So, we're going to wrap it up here, but they do say that all of these situations, it was not caused by any explicit vulnerability or weakness in Amazon Web Services. That's the important takeaway. Instead, it was contractors and people not configuring their files correctly and leaving them open to be searched, read, downloaded, and just messed with by any individual who happened to stumble upon the place where they were stored. Now, that's probably not the easiest thing to do, but it's possible. So definitely have to watch out for it. And yeah, so that was the first stupid story where, folks, if you don't put passwords on your folders and you're doing something that is literally labeled top secret, people are not going to respect the fact that it's top secret. It's just going to make them more likely to click on it. So that was the first stupid one. Now check it out. The second stupid story. And there's no way to defend this. This was pretty silly. So this coming to us from Gadget, Mr. Steve Dent, and thieves tell cops that, quote unquote, Mr. Tesla, end quote, said it was okay to steal Teslas. Mr. Tesla. Okay. So saying, and here we go. So this one is just downright silly, but here we go. Teslas are not easy to steal, but thieves in Utah allegedly made off with 3 $80,000 models by breaking into a dealership and stealing the fobs. And after that, however, their master plan fell comically apart, where one guy claimed a family member had died and left them all this stuff, but 2 of them actually said it was given to them, and by it meaning the car, was given to them by a man named Tesla. And that coming to us from Fox 13, but And they said that in investigating a break-in at the dealership, police tracked down a suspect in one of the stolen Teslas and found him to be in possession of keys, the dealership's business license, and a check made for $49,500 made out to Tesla. And in a burst of what had to be an alcohol-fueled inspiration, he claimed his name was Tesla. Clever. And that someone he barely knew gave him the car and keys. So he's caught on the spot. He is caught inside of a stolen Tesla with a check for $50,000 made out to, obviously, the dealership, made out to Tesla. And the best thing he can come up with is, oh, my name is Tesla. That's my money. That's my $50,000 in the form of a check. And by the way, someone gave me this car. Well, okay. And while police checked clues at the dealership, a stolen Tesla happened to drive right by them, where it ran out of battery power a moment later. So police easily picked up the 27-year-old female suspect, who apparently forgot about the whole never returned to the scene of the crime thing. Oh my God. This individual drove by an active police investigation for which she had caused. Right there in the car. What is wrong with people? Okay, so later in the morning, the third stolen vehicle was found parked outside a liquor store, and that the latter two individuals said that they were part of the Tesla family. Yes, the ever-prestigious Tesla family. And that the woman said she received the high-priced vehicle from Mr. Tesla himself. Now, of course, Tesla, named after Nikola Tesla, Nikola Tesla? There we go. Yeah, he didn't have any kids. So the Tesla line kind of petered out. And to say that Mr. Tesla had given it to them, that was genius. Yeah. So luckily the cars were undamaged and the doors not pried open. So obviously the Teslas were confiscated unharmed, likely because the thieves had the keys to get into them. And after getting lucky with the initial theft, it's pretty clear that they weren't criminal masterminds, saying that it's one of those cases where you're going, what? And scratching your head. And that was from the police chief where this happened, saying that the good thing is that we have 4 people in custody and hopefully all the property is returned. Now, a couple things here. I feel like the technology side of this would easily have prevented this because, you know, I don't know what kind of protections they actually have before they're assigned, but a lot of Teslas are actually assigned to an individual where, you know, you get a unique identifier. The system inside the computer inside the car is actually assigned to a person. And so if the next time that they were to hook up this Tesla to a charging station or any kind of way that it would connect to the internet, it would be pretty easy to identify which cars were stolen and then flag them. So regardless of where they were, I have little doubt that these cars could have easily been tracked. It's just a quirky and silly side of the story that it just so happened that each one, well, there were none too bright, and it just happened to play out that way. So there you have it. 3 Teslas returned to where they belong, and no, Mr. Tesla did not give them the okay to steal his cars. All right, so music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More computer technology news. And everyone, stay tuned. We have a lot more Computer America.
are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And folks, if you missed any part of the show so far, you can check it out, computeramerica.com, or wherever podcasts are heard. That's right, we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, the Google Play Store. Oh, I should have all these off the top of my head. iHeartRadio, of course, and SoundCloud, many others. And of course, if you're listening, you're listening to IRN. Check that out. But here we go. We are now continuing on with computer and technology news. And just having wrapped up the story about, well, Mr. Tesla and his cars, why don't we go ahead and skip on over to... All right. So the FCC, you knew it was coming, but we love to talk about net neutrality here because, well, like we said earlier this week, at this point, a passing vote for the repeal of net neutrality is nigh unavoidable, where it's up to 5 individuals. 3 of them are firm yeses to repealing the regulation, and it doesn't seem like any amount of public comment is ever going to change that. So it doesn't mean that net neutrality is dead. It just means that, well, net neutrality is going to have to be fought out in the courts rather than, kind of regulated. So here we go. This coming to us from Engadget, and I've seen this article a couple of places, but it shows the terminology and the ways that the FCC is trying to shape the dialogue of this conversation that doesn't exactly match what's really saying. So here we go. A bit of a long article, but we'll try to speed through this. Saying that last week, of course, the FCC released a final draft of its proposal to roll back net neutrality protections. And, we've talked all about what this could mean, but here we go. These are 5 different facts that the FCC is trying to push that aren't really, facts. So they said that this is the end of the internet as we know it, and they said that the internet was free and open. Yeah. So they said that this is the end of, so the internet was free and open before Obama administration 2015. So wait, I'm sorry. Why don't we just go ahead with the article? And I apologize for getting tripped up. So removing these protections has been a targeted goal of FCC Chairman Ajit Pai since he took his position, and even in the face of immense pushback from both the public and hundreds of companies and organizations, the FCC has moved forward with the plan and are fully expected to approve it in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, the ones who actually vote on it are not the ones of, they're not the ones who are elected, they are appointed. So they really don't answer to the public or any kind of constituents. So here we go. And these are the myths versus facts as seen by the FCC. And they say that the first one, here's the myth that they put forward, saying that this is the end of the internet as we know it. that's what the FCC is calling the myth. And here's what the FCC is calling the fact, saying that the internet was free and open before the Obama administration's 2015 heavy-handed Title II regulations, and it will be free and open after they are repealed. And yeah, again, that was a quote. That was their response. And they said that, and of course, this seems to be an editorial, obviously from Engadget, but they're saying that that last bit isn't exactly fact. It is at best a hope, and that hope being that after this is repealed, internet companies do stay hands off and they try to mimic the service that they've done in the past. But that does not mean that it will not evolve into something different, where the FCC could have ensured that a free and open internet would indeed be a fact for the citizens of the United States, but it has instead chosen to remove regulation that would do just that. And they say that what internet service providers will choose to do with their soon-to-be newfound deregulation is not in any way guaranteed, even if some have said they will honor net neutrality and promote an open internet. And that doesn't mean they actually will. And here's another point to add to that. If one of the largest, and honestly one of the most aggressive ones, has been Comcast as to internet fast lanes, data caps, paid priority, things like that, they've shown that this is what they want to do. And if this, and hey, that's what they're angling to do. And if they're allowed to do that, they will make more money. There is little to no doubt they will make more money. The problem is that when others say we will tie our own hands and not do what that guy's doing, they're putting themselves at odds with their shareholders, with the people who pay the bills, saying, well, why aren't you? We want to make money. We want to do what they're doing, and you're doing it out of a sense of pride. That doesn't last long in competitive business environments. So even if, a certain number say, hey, we will uphold net neutrality, if it doesn't make business or financial sense, they won't uphold it for long because they won't be in business for long. So even if they say, hey, don't worry, we will, odds are they won't. If it becomes possible and it will make them money, why would they? So here's the next one. And again, these are myths and facts as seen by the FCC. So they said that this will result in fast lanes and slow lanes on the internet that will worsen consumer online experience. And that's the myth. And the fact being restoring internet freedom, that's the whole point of this, as they say, will lead to better, faster, and cheaper broadband for consumers and give startups that need priority access, such as telehealth applications, to the chance to offer new services to consumers, where the FCC is really playing fast and loose with the word fact because, again, this is not a fact. In fact, it is an opinion. And they said that, the article is being cheeky here by giving the Merriam-Webster definition of a fact, but they said that the FCC doesn't have any way to prove that its proposal will lead to a better internet experience for consumers. It can hope that that's the case, and it can, the author's guesses, continue to preach that such an unfounded claim could happen, but stating that as fact is wildly inappropriate, egregiously misleading, and a straight-up abuse of power. Because again, these are the policy makers, and by saying, by doing things that they assume or they guess, and then saying that this is how things are, the author's right. That is misleading in the worst way. So, and they said that the majority of the FCC's myth versus fact list does this repeatedly, stating something as fact when it is at most a possibility, and whether they are possibilities that the members of the FCC actually believe could happen or just what they want all of us to think will happen is unclear. So, and another part of that, I heard about this earlier today, and telehealth seems to be one of the key talking points is that there seems to be this idea that under the current regulation of the internet and this idea that you can't prioritize certain traffic over others, then you can't have telehealth. You can't have people diagnosing or communicating or monitoring patients' vital signs through cloud services without, building up or allowing the network to discriminate between someone's pacemaker and, someone's video game. But here's our problem. And this is something that we've seen on the consumer side, because there's two sides to this. On the consumer side, we've talked with Netgear, we've talked with Asus, we've talked with D-Link, we've talked with many consumer-grade electronics and routers and networking equipment. Being able to prioritize traffic within a system, that is something that can be done on the router level, on the networking level, not the ISP level. The ISP's, only purpose is to make sure that those data pipelines, that those data connections are strong and steady, regardless of what data goes through. And if you want to prioritize data, then you do so at the point of origin. That's where it should really happen, and that's where it's currently happening in the, in the consumer world. That's where it's currently happening. And I know this happens in a business setting as well. Network administrators, IT people do this all the time, where they prioritize what gets sent in what order. It's not up for the ISPs to, distinguish those packages. It's up to who creates the packages to give them their priority. What gets handled and what gets handled the best. Because when you shift that blame over to ISPs, that's when a lot of services can get an upper hand over other services. So there's that side, and then the other side, they're claiming that the current regulations wouldn't allow telehealth. Again, that's the big thing here. Telehealth to take off. The entire time I was just talking, we were discussing consumer grade networking. If a large organization, if a large business, multi-billion-dollar business, such as a hospital, wanted their own internet connection that did discriminate on this level, they don't call up, AT&T, Comcast, Cox, Time Warner, whatever. They don't call up, Charter, and they don't say, hey, Charter, I need my house wired, and oh yeah, I also need a $7 billion medical facility wired for internet as well. It just doesn't work that way. You do make those special deals, and you do get a separate network aside from consumer grade. So for them trying to deregulate the consumer side to give businesses some kind of weird advantage isn't really holding much water. So there you have it. Anyways, continuing with the article, saying that if we are to believe this list, the FCC proposal will promote consumers' online privacy, where ISPs won't block websites or charge more for certain content, and the reduced regulation will lead to greater investment in buildings and expanding broadband networks in rural and low-income areas. But all those claims are ridiculous because none of them are guaranteed, which we've seen before. And in fact, we've seen it to the point where these regulations that are currently being upheld, the reason that they exist is that this open and free internet that they are hearkening back to was starting to shift we were seeing ISPs discriminating against traffic. We were seeing ISPs with BitTorrent and other torrenting software was actually getting throttled as compared to just everyday web browsing. ISPs were already, years ago, starting to discriminate on this data. And here they are promising not to do it, while at the same time, let's face it, this is exactly what they're paying lobbyists for. This is their end goal. So, and here we go. The article continues saying that essentially the FCC wants us to trust our internet service providers to do the right thing. And the article says, but why should we? ISPs aren't governed by the public good. They aren't driven by morality. Their business decisions aren't made on what is best for the consumer. They are all there to make money, as most businesses are. And if throttling services or offering paid prioritization is the next way for them to make more money, then why wouldn't they do it? And further, the FCC members truly believe ISPs won't or they shouldn't, then why on earth would they remove the only regulation keeping them from doing just that? So, yeah, that's the other part of this where there's been a lot of bantering about how they won't do this, they won't do that. Trust us. Stop regulating us, but trust us, we're going to do exactly what the regulations are already in place for. We just don't need the regulation. Well, that really doesn't make much sense either. Because if the regulations are what you're going to be following, regardless if they're there or not, why would you pay so much money to get them removed? Essentially, they're asking for something that they know they're going to break. And the FCC also says that if the internet service providers engage in practices like blocking and throttling, they will face heavy consumer backlash. And the insinuation is that customer backlash is enough to deter such practices. Here's the other problem with that. Part of the problem, or at least, I always felt part of the reason that ISPs were given this Title II regulation, the fact that they are common carriers, just like phones, and they provide a service, they are not there to discriminate or, improve on or change the service. Instead, they are there to facilitate that service. Just like a phone system, it's not like when you bought your home phone, you were essentially buying into a different phone network where you could only call others of the same network. No, you were calling anyone with a telephone. That's what a common carrier is. And now they're saying that, well, you have so much choice with internet providers that if you don't like an internet provider, you can go to another one. This is where I felt Title II made a lot of sense. People don't have choice. People don't have choice for their internet provider. They have one internet provider, or in some cases, 2 or 3 if they're lucky. And the FCC tried to blur that line a bit by saying that cell phone carriers were internet providers. They were trying to say that satellite internet was a viable option for home internet. When anyone who has dealt with either of these knows that they are no replacements for true, dedicated internet service providers. So when you have no choice, and no matter how much you hate it, the only other option is to completely cut your internet connection off. And in this day and age, where people pay their bills online, where they communicate with family online, where they get most of their entertainment, where they do their shopping, where, let's face it, internet is central to so many people's lives, giving it up completely, regardless of how much backlash you feel these internet companies should rightfully get, you're never going to cut that cord. Most people will never cut that cord. And they're saying that is the main deterrence to make sure that internet companies will not do what they said is possible, is that backlash. That's not really a tool most people have to give. So they're saying that, but even outside of reduced competition, when it comes down to individual internet user, nationwide competition actually has very little meaning. Many people have just one or two, as we were saying, blah, blah, blah. And let's see. So while reading the FCC's list of myths versus facts, keep in mind that most of those facts are opinions, hopes, or possibilities. And that you have to ask yourself if you trust unregulated internet service providers to choose the possibility that is best for you and best for the internet. Where if you don't, speak for net neutrality because it's running out of time. And, again, really like this piece. It was definitely, an opinion piece, but it does show that ISPs, they're pushing very hard, and even the FCC, the problem is, in most situations, you would hope that there be two sides to an argument. And in this case, it seems to be the average consumer, the public, versus the FCC. And, what we can only assume is best for their business. And the independent moderator of that discussion and the policy shaper for the outcome of that should be independent and should weigh both sides and decide, hey, this is the way we're going to do things. Well, the independent moderator, in this case, the FCC, is wholly on the side of the internet service providers and is completely against the individual consumer. It's a very hard thing to see because you're told that you have a voice, your opinion matters. This is a service of the people, and here we have a part of our government saying that the public doesn't know, and here's what we're going to do instead. Net neutrality, it's a whole thing, and yeah, not the last time you're going to be hearing about it on this show or others. So let's see. All right. Speaking of telemedicine, this has some pretty wide-ranging implications for what it means to be a technology user in today's day and age. So, this coming to us from Ars Technica, and judge rules against an 84-year-old doctor who can't use a computer. Think about that. 10, 15 years ago, that would have been completely okay. But the judge has ruled that that is unacceptable for a doctor to not use a computer. And they said that Dr. Anna Konopka's voluntary surrender of her medical license will stand. So, a New Hampshire state judge has dismissed a case brought by an elderly doctor who recently gave up her medical license following a handful of allegations against her. And among other accusations, the doctor, who was, again, 84 years old, the age has everything to do with this story, but 84 years old, has refused to use a computer and participate in the state's new law for an online opioid monitoring program, where the court has admiration for Dr. Konopka's devotion to her patients. And they said that, again, they ordered to dismiss the case, saying that under these circumstances of this case, however, the doctor has failed to demonstrate that the extraordinary remedy of an injunction allowing her to continue her practice medicine is appropriate. To hold otherwise would be to ignore the process established by the legislature to regulate the practice of medicine in the state. Essentially what they said there was she was not taking part in the systems that every other doctor had to, based simply on the fact that she felt computers were not something she required. So, in the agreement with the board, she voluntarily surrendered her license to settle pending allegations regarding her record keeping, prescribing practices, and medical decision making, and that those allegations stem from 5 separate complaints against her. And under the terms of agreement, she could reapply to regain her license, but the burden would be on her to prove that she did no wrong. Where at 84 years old, that's going to be a pretty big ask for her to, take this to court. So, the doctor denied any misconduct and asserted that she was under duress when she voluntarily surrendered her license, and that she underscored that she wants to continue practicing medicine, but simply is not concerned with what she calls electronic machines, and her term for the vast bureaucracy often associated with modern medical practices. And yeah, according to NHPR, the doctor has filed for a motion of reconsideration. But there you have it. She lost her license because she refused to learn how to use a computer. And again, she voluntarily surrendered it. I assume that was probably in her best interest, because if she ever did decide that she did want to learn how to use a computer, heck, she could reapply and get the license back. But in the meantime, no computer, no license to practice. Very, very interesting. So let's see. We don't have time to really get into any other stories. We have a couple here that are pretty darn interesting. If you want to check them out, please, computeramerica.com, and we have all of them right there for your consideration. But I will leave us with just this one real quick. PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Very popular game. If you haven't been paying attention over the past 8 months or so, it's been one of the most played games on Steam and other platforms. It is highly, highly popular. And, well, looks like Tencent, which is a Chinese company that owns PlayerUnknown's Battleground, is going to be porting it to a mobile game, saying that they have a Chinese mobile clone of PUBG. And while it's hard to imagine how one could enjoy a chicken dinner, which is slang for winning, how someone could enjoy winning on much smaller screens and sans keyboard or mouse, Tencent said together with the PUBG Corp, they will ensure that this authentic mobile port of PUBG will remain faithful to its PC counterpart in terms of gameplay method, core elements, and compliance with local content regulations. Here's the problem that I think myself and many others face with PlayerUnknown's Battleground. The original isn't done yet. It's still in early access. It's not even a full game. There's a lot of polish to put on it, and it's already getting tournaments, a mobile port, and more. It really feels like they have less interest in actually finishing or completing or, heck, making this game playable, and more interest in making this game profitable. And that can rub a lot of people the wrong way. But hey, story for another time and more. You can check it out again at our website. Folks, we are just flat out of time. You can check us out here at computeramerica.com, and if you missed any part of today's show, you can check it out in its entirety over at YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, IRN, and more. So with that being said, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much, and be sure to tune in tomorrow. Let me get this right. Be sure to tune in tomorrow as we have the one, the only, Scott Schober. He is our security expert, and folks, we sure do have a lot of questions for him. So again, tune in tomorrow, Scott Schober, and yeah, more Computer America all this week. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.